You've probably heard of DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. But did you know there is another life-threatening diabetes emergency that is particularly associated with type 2 diabetes? It can develop much slower than DKA, and blood sugars can become extremely high, and the person can become profoundly dehydrated, confused, sleepy, and eventually lose consciousness. And here is the important part. They may not have any significant ketones at all. And this diabetes emergency is called HHS, which is the Hyperosmolar Hyperglycemic State. And today, I want you to understand what it is, what it can look like, and why recognizing it early could save a life. So let's move on. What exactly is HHS? So think about DKA and HHS as two different severe hyperglycemic emergencies. In DKA, there isn't enough effective insulin on board. The body starts breaking down fat rapidly for energy and in turn producing large amounts of ketones. These ketones accumulate and cause metabolic acidosis, which becomes too acidic in the blood and make you ill. Now, HHS works totally differently. In HHS, there is usually enough insulin activity to significantly suppress the production of ketones, but not enough to actually control blood sugar levels. So instead of the dominant problem being ketones and acidosis, the blood glucose can climb to extraordinarily high levels while the person becomes severely dehydrated. So that combination of extreme hyperglycemia, hyperosmolality, and dehydration is actually the hallmark of HHS. Now, what does HHS actually look like? So this is where I really want you all to pay close attention to. Someone may initially be very thirsty, passing a lot of urine, feeling weak or generally unwell, even nauseated and becoming increasingly dehydrated. But unlike DKA, which often progresses like over hours to a few days, HHS develops more gradually over several days and even weeks. As the dehydration and hyperosmolality become very severe, something particularly concerning can happen. So the brain could begin to be affected. The person may become confused. They may behave quite in an unusual way. They may even become increasingly drowsy, and in several cases, consciousness can deteriorate. So all of this cannot be ignored. Now, how high can the blood sugar go? The answer is very high. Current American Diabetes Association diagnostic criteria for HHS includes a plasma glucose of at least 33.3 millimole per liter or 600 mg per dl, alongside hyperosmolality and the absence of significant hormones. Diabetes UK notes that by the time some people are diagnosed, your glucose levels might be over 40 millimole per liter. Imagine what happens. High glucose makes you pass a lot of urine, you're losing water, you become more dehydrated, your kidneys now start to struggle to clear the excess glucose effectively. Then the next thing, your glucose is rising further, and in turn, more water is lost. This becomes a very dangerous cycle. So let's look at what can trigger HHS. Most often, something else actually starts the process. It could be an infection, which is often the common trigger. It could also be acute illnesses like cardiovascular diseases, stroke, or heart attack. Even dehydration itself is also extremely important in triggering HHS. So, being unable to take your usual diabetes medication during an illness can also contribute to triggering HHS. So, you must be judicious in taking your diabetes medication. HHS versus DKA. So, here is an easy way to actually remember the distinction between the two. DKA equates to think ketones, think acidosis, and think insulin sufficiency. That combination equates to DKA. Now let's look at HHS. Think extreme glucose, think extreme dehydration, think extreme hyperosmolality. All this equates to HHS. But don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, type 1 gets DKA and type 2 gets HHS. It's not that simple at all. We need to have at the back of our minds that persons living with type 2 diabetes can actually develop DKA. People can even present with features of both the DKA and the HHS simultaneously. So we must look beyond the glucose numbers alone. What should I do? HHS is not something that you manage at home. It is a medical emergency that requires hospital assessment and treatment, and this will include the replacement of fluid, some insulin, and electrolyte management while they search what the underlying trigger might be. Once it's identified, it will be treated. So if someone with diabetes has a very high glucose alongside severe thirst, frequent urination, significant dehydration, a bit of confusion, increasing sleepiness, or altered consciousness, please seek medical attention. So remember, DKA is not the only diabetes emergency you need to know about. HHS can actually develop quietly over days before becoming extremely serious. So you need to know the signs, know the difference, and most importantly, don't wait for someone to become unconscious before you take severe hyperglycemia seriously. If you found this video very helpful and useful, please share, like, and subscribe, and share it to someone living with diabetes, because when you recognize HHS early, you could actually genuinely save a life. Please don't forget to like, hit that subscribe button, comment below, please. I need comments. Please do comment. Let's talk about HHS. I know it's something that we do not really talk so much about. And I'll see you all in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.